Hi, and welcome to Complete and Cast, the official podcast for Complete and Box video games. I'm your host, Spencer. Today we have a special episode. This is episode 59. Wow, can you believe it? 59 episodes. I know, right? This is Gamestop's Rise and Fall Part 3, and today we're joined, we mentioned him before, in fact, I think both the other parts, Brian Horan. From my old manager from Gamestop. How you doing, Brian?
Hello, hello.
My almost manager.
That's my manager. And also, Mike Finch is here again, I guess.
We don't know why he keeps coming back.
So, we really wanted to pull this together. After we talked with Finch and RJ, you know, there were certain things that came up that our side of things we might not actually see, because Finch was went the furthest in the company. He was an ASM, but there's certain things that only managers and the people above really see. They're the ones that get reamed down and everything. And that's why we have Brian here.
The behind the scenes.
The behind the scenes. So
I'm super stoked about this.
I know, right? This is going to be fun.
Can we talk about the scheduling issue to lead up to this? We had to reschedule this 4 times?
The first time was my fault. It was all set to go, and then I completely forgot we were doing a complete unbox commercial, and it was with my friend Matt, who is actually even harder to track down than Brian, which is hard to believe, but he is. He literally, I went to him, I was like, okay, we want to do this. Here are the days I'm free, but I can essentially make any time work, And he was like, oh, here are the days in the next month I was free. It was 2 days. It was 2. And it's like, and then he was like, oh, here's the next month. It was 1. So I was like, yeah.
The next month after that, nothing.
Yeah, he's like, just after that, it's over. So yeah, I was like, yeah, we got to do this commercial and get it out of the way. So we're going to introduce Brian here. So Brian was a manager at GameStop. He was my manager, not Finch's. Get at it, your Finch. After a certain event happened, which we will definitely talk about in a little bit, he went on to manage FYE across the street from Park City, RIP, because that place closed down, right?
Oh, yes, it did.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's now the Bonefish Grill.
And you know what? So much better for it, right? I've never been to the Bonefish, but I assume it's better than FYE.
Hashtag sponsor us, please.
And then Brian went in 2011, correct, for Turkey Hill?
Yep.
You went to Turkey Hill, and you immediately started as a manager, or did you work your way up?
I worked my way up.
What do you start as? Kind of like a
Turkey Hill. I started out at Turkey Hill as a overnight employee. I wanted to learn
just an employee
from the bottom up. So I have a better respect for it and everything too. Fast forward 6 months, now I'm store manager, and now I've been store manager for 7 years.
Well, let's give the news real quick. Go ahead.
So effective Friday, I'm now going to be a district manager in training for Turkey Hill. So whoop whoop,
let's go. And one of the things we're doing besides gathering more information from Brian is to show you that GameStop, this could have been your future. Yeah. Brian could have been your district manager, and we'll try to explain why that's a bad thing, why he's not there for you, GameStop.
Yeah, well, it's kind of mind-blowing, because with the experience that you have, you probably could have just gone into Turkey Hill for the most part as a manager.
Absolutely.
Yep. But to have that respect for, because I worked overnight at Turkey Hill, and that's some garbage some days. So for you to be like, I want to start at the bottom and learn my way up.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have a better respect for my associates, that I know what to ask of them and what my expectations can be for them without sounding like
unrealistic.
This guy just rolls his chair out of his office and tells me to do stuff and rolls back in his office. So.
And I've watched, my new thing now that we started this is just watching just different people talk about working in retail on YouTube, and it's just phenomenal. There's a guy named Fantavision who does Tales from Retail. He tends to go on a little bit just like me. But it's interesting to see that everywhere around the country, it's like, oh, my manager, he didn't manage. He just, like Brian said, rolled out of his office. Hey, do this. Do the checks. Okay, see ya. Kind of thing. And that's one of the things that I do. At CIB, I do literally everything that I would ask them to do. In fact, I usually do the grosser stuff that I wouldn't ask them to do. I will be the one, cleaning the toilets and stuff, whereas I generally would not ask them. So it's Brian's take on that is completely fair. Your employees will respect you more if you're a hands-on and doing stuff with them.
But also on the flip side, you can call out their BS when they're like, I couldn't get it done. You are a liar.
Because I've done it.
So I've done it, and I can do it. So.
All right, so let's go back in the time machine back to when you started at GameStop, Brian. Tell us about when you first started. Roughly what year was it?
I was 2005.
And you started as...
I started there actually as seasonal.
As seasonal, okay.
As seasonal at Golden Triangle with Mr. Good Old Loggins.
So Loggins hired you. Okay,
friend,
Loggins hired you. Loggins is like the granddaddy tree that everything sprouts from. No one's there anymore, but it is like for all the people there. It all comes back to Loggins. Yeah. It does. Yeah, it's very interesting how that works out.
Good old Loggy Doggy.
So you started as seasonal. Now just tell us very quickly how you moved up, just roughly in the ranks.
So started out seasonal. After the Christmas season was over, Loggins offered me a key holder position. That was probably only 2 months after being there. And from there, probably within the year, I was an assistant manager. And I wasn't assistant manager too long before I got thrown into a store, and hence the going to Park City. And I was at Park City Mall. And
how long were you manager roughly? I kind of forget. Couple years?
It was for 5 years.
For 5 years? Wow, it's longer than I
2010.
So. Okay.
I can't believe how fast you moved up too. I guess that seems to be a common trend among your hiring processes now.
That's not only a common trend, but it just goes to show at the time it was less of it was easier to move through the company at the time with GameStop. If they saw that you were working hard, they would move you up and you would get rewarded for that.
Correct. Yeah, and you would go through, and actually the store manager that was training you and stuff like that too was able to kind of put a good word out there for you, and they took it for what it was. It had value to it. It had some meaning behind it. So it's like, hey, I had to impress my boss immediately. I didn't have to impress the CEO that I saw once a year, the person that I saw who would stop in, tell me that something's dusty and leave. Like, I had to improve just with that store manager, and that's what got me to that next step, and that's what got me my foot in the door.
Less corporate BS is what you're saying. Yeah. Just the manager telling you did a good job then.
Yeah. And that which created a better atmosphere, and that too, you knew that you were getting they were instantly looking at you and instantly looking at what you've done and what you've accomplished, to which might seem like little things, but to them it's a bigger scheme of things.
Do you know, now you kind of brought up a good point. Now that I think about it, back then when I first started at GameStop in 2007, and I was not only seasonal, but I was at college, so I wasn't even like
you were the college kid that was like, hey, I'm coming back.
Yeah,
put me on the schedule. Not can you put me on the schedule? Just
put me.
I'll be on the schedule.
Dude, one of the things I said this either part 1 or 2, and I know all GameStop employees, if they heard it now, they would be like, you're crazy. But I specifically remember going to Loggins because I lived about 30 minutes away over in 5 Pointville, and I remember going to him and being like, Loggins, listen, because I remember one time I was on for like a 4-hour day. I was like, dude, do not put me on 4-hour shifts. Like, it's 7 or 8, or I'm not coming in. Yeah. And he was like, okay. Like, I wasn't mean about it. I was
I'm not going to drive almost to 45 minutes to come in for 4 hours.
Right. I'm not going to get ready, do this, drive in, and that like I said, RJ was like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. And I was like, no. I literally went to him and was like, dude, I love working here. I will work 40 hours a week for you, but it's got to be 7 or 8 hours. I'm not doing this BS where it's like, come in 10 to 1. I was like, no, 10 to 1. But no.
But to be fair, so when they would have us do scheduling and stuff like that, that was one of the big things. They were like, you could not schedule less than 3 hours. So I could schedule you for a 3-hour shift, and that was it.
It's so BS.
I felt terrible even doing that. Yeah. Like, even a 4-hour shift, I felt like a jerk doing it, because I was just like,
the only way is if someone had another job they were coming to as a part-time. Then you're like, okay, 6 to close, great, but that was not the case. It was during the summer, and I was like, dude, I'm not coming in 6 till close. Get out of here, kind of thing.
And I always hated hearing people say they were tired, they worked so many hours or whatever, because at the same time that I was store manager in GameStop, I was also a inventory analyst at Staples.
That's right, you were.
So I worked 2 full-time jobs. I was working 80-plus hours a week.
That's one thing I forgot to mention last time, is I actually followed Brian to Staples when GameStop, near the end, when GameStop started to lower hours for people like GAs. Probably, like I said, I started in 2007, so probably like 2009, 2010, I was like, but I want a summer job, but you can only give me 15 hours now. I was like, I'll just go to Staples too. So I did that as well, yeah.
Wow.
That was only for like a summer year or something like that.
Oddly enough, I worked at Staples also.
I didn't.
It's just a thing, I guess.
I think that's the official job ever in my life where I was like, I don't care. Like, I was like I still worked.
But you said like you would go in and you'd be like, I don't care. They're like, but you showed up. It's okay. So you're like, I'm going to do no work. And they're like, but it's okay.
Remember...
Staples is crazy. I was supposed to be in the computer area. That's not where I was. I got doing inventory some days or register or maybe I was there 3.5 months. They had no idea what to do with me.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish the training.
You're like, what's my official title? You're like, that guy.
Yeah, I started selling computers at one point.
Yeah, they're like, he sold a computer. Let's put him there.
Yeah, that was the one job I ever had where I was like, I'm showing up and it's fine, but like I'm not gonna like have a zeal for like, oh, you got to get this printer paper. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like, Brad was a great manager. Remember Brad?
Yep.
And,
I think he actually still works.
And you know, I was like, Brad, I will work hard for you, but I hope you know that I'm not like, woo, office supplies. You know what I mean? Like it just does, and I'm sure nobody there does the same thing.
But to which at the same time, Brad was the same way. He was like, okay.
By the way, do you remember Henry? Is it Henry with the glasses?
Oh my
God.
God.
Right. So Henry was one of those lifers at Staples who he always talked like this. He was like, hey, how you doing there, Spencer? Right? It was like something like that.
He would always talk to a customer that you know that the customer heard what he was saying, but they completely ignored it because it was so ridiculous. He'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna help you load that in your car. You stupid! You're so stupid."
He was like,
"You're like, Henry,
okay,
what did you say?" He's like, "I didn't say anything."
Everybody loves Raymond. Once in a while, they had Ray's it's a guy who looks exactly like Ray, but he's like sadder. I don't know how to explain.
I don't
he's
even
like,
know how that's possible.
Yeah, so like he looks exactly like Raymond,
really
but he has a
hates him.
droopier face, and he's always like, oh, and that was him. It was exactly him, and we always joked that he was actually like a CIA operative. Remember, or like
we said he was just doing this public. He was doing a test to the public that he was going to write a book later on. He'd be like, a social
story.
experiment. That's what he was
Yeah,
doing. Like,
a social
my life as a slow, non-dependable type of person or whatever. This is how I was treated. And then we were all going to read it because we're all going to have
bestseller.
we were all going to have to. We were all going to have to buy it because we were like, oh my god, Henry wasn't crazy. He was actually. He was legible.
He was working us the whole time. Okay. So back on subject. I love it though.
Yeah.
So when you first became manager, we're talking 08, something like that. What would you say was the general reputation of GameStop?
It was a destination location. It was a place that you went to that nobody wanted to go to Walmart. Nobody wanted to go to Best Buy. I mean, Best Buy really wasn't a big player in the thing in that too.
Especially in games, yeah.
Especially games. And there wasn't as many, there obviously wasn't Complete in Box. There wasn't Just Press Play.
I don't think
like
there was.
That. So it was
Yeah.
just GameStop.
Yeah.
So, but at that time they didn't rule with an iron thumb like, it's either us or nobody. You're not going to get it at all, type of thing. They actually had a good mentality of, hey, come on in, shop, bring your, it was family friendly. It was appealing to that, our biggest thing that we used to talk about was let's be appealing to the single mom who comes in that has no idea anything about the games, but little Johnny wants this game. No, we're not going to sell him Grand Theft Auto. Sorry. But, but that was our job, and that was when it was fun. That was when it was exciting to, like, you went in and you felt like after the day you're like, you know what, I helped that person get that, and I didn't badger them. I didn't, like, strong arm them. I didn't sit there and, reserve or die.
And then when you got the numbers, it felt even better because you're like, I naturally got the numbers. I hope the person they're like, give me the.
I got it for being a nice guy.
Yeah,
I got it for being a nice guy. Sure, I'll spend an extra $200-$300 in your store, and I'll come back and I'll tell my friends.
Isn't it funny how when corporate lays off you and just lets you do what you can do,
it's amazing.
It does better, right?
Yeah.
Like
there's less stress because especially even for the associates too. You have those. Those GAs that were working 4 hours a week and stuff like that. If you've got, the head CEO standing over your shoulder, what are you going to do? You're going to mess up. You're going to bobble. You're going to make mistakes. And they're going to be like, well, that guy needs to go. He needs to get fired. And it's like, well, no, just take 10 steps back and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no one does good with the big guy standing over them. No one.
No.
And just is what it is. And especially if like, oh, the regional's coming in today, then you're like, okay. We got to make sure everything's perfect.
Which by the way was the worst being in Park City Mall because Park City Mall on its own, like anybody who's ever had the
misfortune
challenge of working in Park City Mall knows what I mean. Like when Halloween's over, like you don't see outside of those four walls till after Christmas.
Yeah,
like it just gets insane. But like people don't understand that haven't worked in the mall. They don't understand, like, especially Park City Mall. Maybe York Galleria is different and stuff like that.
Or maybe where you're from has a dead mall. Park City is not a dead mall.
Park City is not. But man, it is. Yeah,
it is a nightmare during the holiday season.
I can make up my entire sales for the entire year. I could do terrible and tank all year. As long as I did good October through December, I'd make my numbers. No problem.
And the funny thing is, comparing Park City to, say, just where CIB is, and I'm not going to divulge actual numbers, but like a June at Park City was way worse than a CIB would be. Like what I see where we are is the November December is less of a hill. Mm-hmm. But it's less of a drop the rest of the year. We're more like just steady, and then we see I don't know, 25, 30, whatever % more, during the holidays. Whereas for malls, it's oh, well, you make your entire, you make everything. They wish they could close for 10 months and then just open at Halloween.
But come January 1st, it was nothing until that big game release in March.
Yeah.
And that was so. Otherwise, you were like, "Hey, I know you're really great. You're a great seasonal employee. However, I have to let you go. You can reapply later, which you probably won't do." And it stinks because I had a lot of really good people in that too.
Yeah.
I had Lewis. I had Brian. I had I was probably the one store that actually had girls working there that. People stopped in and actually asked them questions about games, not just sat there and Google Gaga over
that
and
actually
stuff like that.
Stuck because my manager, one of the managers, Christine Harmon, she was there. I met one of my former girlfriends there, and and now the manager that was there, she just left to go somewhere else. But another wonderful girl.
That is a good thing that they ended up getting there, over the course of the years. By the way, before I head to the next topic, I want to point out something for Finch, and this might sound crazy because you weren't there at the time.
Right.
But the first year or two that I worked at GameStop, the dress code was slacks and a collared shirt. Not jeans. Well, you did not wear jeans.
Oh. But it was slacks and collared shirts until you worked at Park City. And Park City, literally, they brought in temperature gauges, stuff like that. It was 85 degrees in there. To the point where they were like, oh, the AC's working. Not in there.
Do you remember sometimes, because I'm affected by the heat more than most people, and I remember sometimes I'd be like, I gotta step out. I
remember you just getting mad just because how hot it is. Everything would irritate you at that point.
Dude, I get
hey, he's talking about this game. I don't care.
I get affected by temperature more than anyone I know, and it sucks. That's why CIB is always very cold. But yeah, no, seriously, in Golden Triangle, it was our work attire was slacks, not jeans, slacks, and a collared shirt. And now it's just wear whatever the heck you want, jeans and whatever.
But it was nice. Every now and then we get the cool little swag, shirts and stuff like that. But
Madden came out, you could wear your jersey and stuff like that.
And the thing that would stink though is that they would send that stuff out. At Turkey Hill, if we get shirts, it's promo shirts for everybody, not just, hey, here's a promo shirt for the store manager, and that's it. Because then it's oh, cool, I can show it off, but no one else can. Sorry.
Yeah. Now, when they send promo shirts to Turkey Hill, because I know when they sent them to GameStop, it was oh, here's a medium.
One of each size, yeah.
Here's a medium, 3 larges, and 2 XLs, and all of your employees are 150 pounds. Have fun trying to decide who wears what.
Do you think 150 pounds is XL?
No. But
okay. Because I just want to point out that I'm 6 foot 200 pounds. I know you weigh 80 pounds soaking wet, but hey, if you're trying to say that the average employee was an XL, that's fine. No. Say 200 because it makes me feel very bad.
They would just send shirts.
They would send you just the smaller sizes, and you would have people that I'm sorry, Lewis that works for me, who was 6'6", 300 pounds. He was a big, he's a big kid.
But they
he's
would never
not fitting in a 2X. I'm sorry.
They wouldn't send the right shirts.
Yeah,
that.
And then you would have to beg, barter, and steal from another store to the point where you're just never mind, guys. I tried.
Okay, so finishing up on this topic real quick. At the time when you were a manager, how did the general employees feel about GameStop, kind of as a corporation or as a store?
It was a lot better when I first started because they would come in and what drew them in to want to apply and stuff like that too was because, hey, I was a customer. It's a fun environment. You guys look like you're having fun. You guys don't look like you're run down and beat down kind of thing and that too. I like the atmosphere. I like the especially with GameStop, there's so many in the area. What had them come to the Sears wing versus in the center of the mall? You know what I mean? And that's what it was it was the people, it was the culture, what was created, but that was what it was when it first started. And when I first started with the company, it was that atmosphere. That's what drew me in originally for myself.
And the culture, as we said, over the course of time really, devolved. It just became less. It's again, we're talking 2019 here. It's hard to imagine. It is a meme, but it's like back in 2007, 2010 or whatever, it was like, it was fun. Like, it was most days you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm going into work, and it's going to be, a unique challenge. So you became manager at store 375. I remember that after all those years, by the way, which is the Sears wing in Park City. And then eventually I found my way over to you there as well at some point.
Yes.
So when you first became manager, in general, we don't need to go into crazy numbers here. How was 375 doing?
375, it was doing okay. Russ was the manager there before. He had a lot of... I got it right after it got remodeled, too, so that was definitely helpful, especially for that location. But I remember it being less than $1 million store, and less than a year, we turned it around. Me and my team turned it around to a $2.5 million store.
That's...
And that little cubicle of a...
That's a big...
spot.
That's a big difference. Like... That's like 150. No, a lot difference. It's leaps and bounds above. Yeah. I'm trying to do math in my head while I'm also trying to talk, and it's
a good thing
fun.
you didn't go to be a math major or anything.
Screw that. So that only happened in just you said
within that first year.
Oh, the first year. It wasn't even just those 5 years. No. Now, over the course of the years you were there, did it remain kind of steady? Did it go down at some point?
There were certain times, depending on what was out and available at that time. I was at there during the Wii Fit, the Mario Kart for the Wii. Those were the big things, and those were the things that
multi-million dollars.
That Nintendo, then kudos to Nintendo. They knew what they were doing, create the demand for it and everything. They just forgot about the people in the stores that were getting screamed at because Timmy's not getting Mario Kart for Christmas this year. Yeah. So
Wii Sports.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wish CIB would have been around at that time, because everything Wii, you could just put it out on the floor and it would be gone.
It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah, dude, it sounds crazy because nowadays when people come in with these items, we pass on them, and if they leave them in, we bundle them up and sell them for $1 in the dollar bin. But those little, I don't know what you want to call them, packages of just pieces of plastic for the Wii.
The sports accessories.
Yeah, the tennis racket, the baseball bat. They sold for like $15, $20. Mm-hmm. Yep. 25 sometimes, yep. Right? Wii Zapper, the one with Link's Crossword Training, $25. Right, and that's something if it comes in, I'm like, sorry, I don't want this.
And nobody played Link Zapper.
Nobody knew what it was a small piece of plastic and it sold for $25. The margins on that must have been amazing. I just can't even imagine.
Because we would take it in as trades at GameStop, and they would turn around and sell just that Zapper for $15 used, and it's like...
It's just a piece of plastic.
It's a piece of plastic.
Yeah, how's it going to get more...
And at that point, that was when the transition was changing with the company. It was, giving us the, yes, say you need it. It's required. It's not right. It's a piece of plastic.
Well, let's go into that. Did they ever pressure you to say that you needed certain things?
There was never I guess they would never tell you that you need to say it, but it was heavy emphasis on you should really recommend this. You should really, tell them that they really are going to need it. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Big things, especially if they were stuff that were like GameStop exclusive. They were stuff that was the GameStop brand type of items and stuff like that too. Hence those sports packs and stuff like that too, just to build that basket, which in a business sense, that makes sense. I get it and I understand that, but at the same time, that's when you started seeing a lot of the trends changing, that it wasn't hey, come on in, let's talk about games, let's go through and get you what you need. If you leave here with nothing, that's okay. But you'll come back to us. Now it's, now it ended up getting to the point where it's just like, I'm going to keep drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling. And me and the rest of my family aren't coming back to not only just that location, I'm not going to any of them. Why? Because they can turn around, they can go to Walmart. Have you ever met a Walmart employee that's like, hey, can I help you find anything?
Yeah.
No, you just don't.
You begrudgingly ask, but...
Yeah. You're just like, I've looked everywhere and I physically cannot find it. Do you have any idea where it is? And then you get the blank stare and you're like, never mind. You don't have it.
So while you were there, You already mentioned the numbers of the like the sales rankings. Were there any other specific like awards or distinctions that you had?
So the store actually got.
I remember something that we got.
We did get a sales award in that too for actually having the highest overall percentage versus prior year. We actually got number 2 in the company, which was great for our store for the year. It was a percentage over for the year in that too, and that was actually when we got the award and stuff like that when I went to Vegas, and it was cool getting that award because it was one of those I could bring it back and we could share it with the store. And actually, I thought about it after I stopped working at GameStop and that too. I was like, damn, I wonder if it was still in there because we had it in the back room / bathroom / system room / whatever else it was. But I remember it was sitting up there because at that time it had the Buck the Bunny on it.
I was hoping you would have mentioned that because I remember we were number 2 something, but I didn't know. I didn't remember what.
I'm trying to remember if I saw it back there when I was working there.
All right, lads, you know what we're doing then.
Listen, I just need to go in your back room. I don't want to say anything else.
I don't know who you are or anyone else in the company.
I could probably do it.
Yeah, you got to get that. You got to see what's there.
I could probably ask Kylie. I think Kylie still works there. So
hey, from 2010 or 2009
listen,
or whatever.
I think there may or may not be a plaque in your back room. I'd kind of like it. That'd be great.
The next time I see Kylie Bottoms, I'll have to ask.
Yeah, why the heck not? You know what I mean?
Worst case scenario, she goes, no.
It's
actually holding up something in the back room. We kind of can't take it down now.
Well, that's the other thing with that small store is the back room was probably, I want to say, 50 square feet. Like, I mean, and then, was it 8 by 8 maybe? So 64 square feet, you know?
And it was terrible because you're like, oh, it's Christmas time. Here comes my shipment. You'd see the UPS guy come in. And I'm like, how many boxes? 100, 150 that day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, another 100.
Yeah, dude.
With shipment coming out of our ears and stuff like that, and they're like, but you need to sell it. It needs to go somewhere.
I remember those shipments when we would come in, it would be like the whole dolly, like the huge dolly bring in and be like, all right, hold on, I got 2 more. And I'm
you're like, no.
I'm so sorry, UPS guy. Go home to your family.
Because especially in the mall, they'd be running stupid
and
late.
The system room as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very little space. Very little space.
You actually had to have like a Barnum and Bailey circus kind of ladder and that too to get to the I was figuring like the whole like Willy Wonka thing, where you're like climbing up the ladder, like I'll get you.
Well, that was one of the things that when I first started CIB, we only had 1915 square feet, including the bathroom and the office, which weren't ever going to be part of the actual floor plan. And I remember being like looking at it and being like, this is where we're going to put the line for the back room. And I don't know who it was, and I'm not giving them crap for this, but they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. And what I'm getting at is it was like a good percentage of it. It was like maybe 33% of it, 30% like that. And I was like, no, it's going to be here. And they were like, are you sure? And I was like, I'm sure. And 8 years later, I'm like, thank you. And like part of that was being at GameStop and being like, well, we're gonna need a heck of a back room. Like you just need it. You know what I mean? It just is what it is.
Yeah, and your back room at CIB is legendary. It's so nice.
We try. I actually was in it today and I was like, damn, I need to go through this again, which is no fun, but
which is there's tomorrow.
Yeah, there's tomorrow morning. Rip. So you mentioned this earlier, but positive reinforcement. Did you generally get that for the numbers we were getting? I mean, you got the award, but besides that,
I would get the positive reinforcement. I would hear it a lot from my district manager. Shout out to Mr. Steve D. He was probably the best district manager that we had.
Best calves in town.
Yes, hit calves for days.
He was no. The thing was he would be wearing shorts in the summer, and he would get
he would go to grab something on the top shelf and purposely be like
flex.
Yeah, no, but like his calves were like you take both your fists and put them together into like one big huge muscle, and like that's what it was. And I'm like, I forget if it was me or remember Ryan.
It was Ryan Cisbaro.
Okay.
Ryan Cisbaro tried. It was.
He was like those calves.
He's like, I just want to kiss him. And we were like totally go for it, dude. And he's like, I don't think he'd go for that.
And that just goes to show you the kind of like just how it was back then, the environment was, because the district manager came in, we're like, hey Steve, you know what I mean? And he's like, he wouldn't be like, get these damn numbers. He'd be like if it was something serious, he'd be like, listen, we need to talk about whatever. But like it wasn't like, I'm here just to give you hell. You know what I mean?
Otherwise he would come in and be like, listen, you know what you're doing. Do your thing. The numbers show it. I see it. you're doing a great job. Just keep it going. And that was good. Those were the good visits and stuff like that. Instead of them coming in like, hey, this is dirty, this is dusty, do this, do that, do that. You give me a laundry list. Well, it's now 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm supposed to leave. Well, I guess I'm staying now.
I remember the regional. I have no idea who the regional manager was, but I remember he came in once, I think, to the mall store and was there for like 2 minutes and was like, move this, and this. And I was like,
it was a guy that like when you sit there and think about like, all right, you work for GameStop, you're a higher up through GameStop. Maybe you have some, knowledge of games. Like I picture it one way, but that guy came in and I forget what his name was, but he came in and it was just, I'm like, I don't think you've ever picked up a video game in your life.
And you don't have to be a hardcore gamer. You don't have to be like every day I'm playing Destiny, but like you need to know
something.
Your clientele. You need to know your clientele. You just do. It just
is what it is. It was just like, I like money.
Yeah. And I specifically remember he was there for like 2 minutes and he was like the store looked great and he was like, no. This. Wrong. Change it. Move it. Okay, bye. And I'm like, okay, you're making $150,000 a year. Like, thanks. You know what I mean?
And it's funny because that guy, we saw him once that 1 year. I think that's actually probably the only time I saw him in the 5 years of working there was just that one time. And it was just like, that's cool.
Yeah. But again, he wasn't like one of those guys where you're like, wow, I have respect for this guy. I'll never see him again. But it was like,
no.
Yeah,
it was just walk in, bad, wrong. Okay, cool, thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for the heads up. Keep up the good work. I got you.
So heading more in towards things that only you would know as a manager. So as a manager, what did you have to deal with that nobody else, even say an ASM, had to deal with on a daily basis?
Oh God.
I guess we can truncate it if you need to, right?
So I would say probably the biggest thing that they would have us do it was the oh my God, what are they called? RSBs.
Wow.
We talked about those last time.
So guess what? That changed because I was doing them constantly.
Oh my!
Did managers have to do them?
Managers had to do them, and we couldn't. They got to a point where we couldn't pawn them off. But like RSBs in a nutshell were just like, hey, you have all this crap. You don't need it. You're not going to sell it. Give it to somebody else.
It's a good idea. It'd be a good idea,
but then you were that store that was receiving said crap, or you'd receive it, and there were guidelines to it. It was if you're going to send it to them, it has to at least have a packaging. It has to be ready to go and sell.
Yeah, there were guidelines. Okay,
there were guidelines.
There's laws, and nobody followed them too, right?
Nobody followed them because you would get that box. You would see it too in your shipment. You'd be like, I see that ugly tape job. That's a whole box of crap.
Even though I was only a game advisor, the lowest thing, I would help you with those. It would come in, and remember, like you would get them in, you would look at it, and it would say Bronx, New York, and you would go, well, F me. F me. You knew
all these PSP games that were like stapled in the little little CD bags and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is bull.
Yeah,
this is crap. Like, and I'm like, but because then you would go from all right, my day's almost done to now I've got 8 more hours of work. Great.
We talked about it the last time with Finch and RJ, but like they were so bad, and I remember like we never strayed, even though at a certain point once they started getting bad, and everything we got in was from like Kentucky and it sucked, or New York and it sucked, and we still were like, okay, we weren't sending the best if we had 3 copies and one wasn't perfect. Whatever, we sent that one, but we were actually sending them out that they would open the box and be like, okay, it's done. I can put this out. It's ready to go. We wanted so bad to be like, F it. We're going to do the same thing as everyone else.
There were a couple times we put a note in there, and we were like, if you send one back to us, it should look like this. And like, you never knew if like they actually got the note, read it, or whatever too, but you had the hopes and anticipation of. I would say another big thing was because you were limited on hours and stuff like that too was marketing. Going through and putting up signs.
We didn't mention that last time. Yeah.
So now I'm a weirdo. Maybe I'm a psychopath. I don't know. But I enjoyed doing it. But it was because
was it always after hours or was it not after?
A lot of times it would be before the store opened and stuff like that. I'd come in and set it up.
I can commiserate that. I love doing, like, if I have a small thing to do after work hours and no one's in my damn store and everything's chill, I love that. Every Tuesday night we put out the new comics come out for the week. It takes me about 5 minutes because I already have them like ready to go. But that 5 minutes is like bliss. There's like no music, there's no nothing, and I'm just like,
it's very tranquil,
right? So I can feel you there. Like that's. But like I always tell my other guys like, this is my time. You know what I mean?
I would say that was probably the one thing that they were. We had the. the companies would pay for a certain sign to be in a certain place. We had to follow certain things. But other things, we got creative. That's where we would have like the signs on the double doors, stuff like that and everything. So you'd have 2 big posters, stuff like that. But for us, it was like we had that creativity and stuff like that too. And I would use it to like, I'd go to a game advisor, just something little as, hey, which one should we put up? We can put one. Which one would you like up? Oh, that one. Okay, cool. Oh, that's my poster. So it gave them a little more sense of,
not only that, but it like, a lot of times the lower people are like, well, that's the cooler game, whereas you might not even know because you're so bogged down in work, you're like, what Japanese RPG thing should I put up? That one. It's like, great,
Sounds great.
Looks
colorful. Put it up.
So let me tell you what it turned into.
Oh boy.
Because it was it got changed, so managers only had to do it once a month now. So I had it pawned off on me as an ASM. I had to do it 3 out of the 4 Sundays a month, and I talked about
marketing changed every Sunday.
Pretty close.
Wow.
I'm just glad that ours changes once a month now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Since hours were cut like hard after you left, to the point where
I want that. That's our next subject then. Okay?
Yeah. We were only given like an hour to an hour and a half to do marketing in all of it.
Oh wow!
And
the big thing that we're talking about is Brian was manager, so he could come in at 4 a.m. in the morning, and take all his time in the world to do it because he was salaried. Yeah. Finch did not have that, as not a manager, so it's like, gotta get up, gotta get it out, gotta get clocked out,
and then they come in and be like, oh, that looks like crap, and that's not.
Well,
that's not straight or whatever. And
we were like we were given strict like pamphlets we had to follow, and
okay.
If stuff wasn't in the right spot or done in the next morning, like I received a text or message about it. It was ridiculous. It was crazy.
Probably the biggest pain in the butt was when at 375 we had cabinets behind the register, and we had the DVD cases and stuff like that. So we would make that look all nice and cool. But what would suck is we'd go to put up the poster in front of it and everything, and you go to cut it, and it's like up sideways, and then I specifically remember it was an NBA game that we put a poster up, and it was right through the guy's face, and it just was like wave to the right hand side. I'm like, well, that's terrible. So we got to sit like that for a month. That's gonna be fun.
So let's talk really quickly about hours, because this is actually one of the next things I was going to talk about. So this sounds crazy. Anybody who's worked at GameStop in the last 8 years or so, but I, as a GA, got 30 to 40 hours a week every week during the summer.
Yep.
Always, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when you first started, or maybe when you become an SGA, how many hours were allocated per week? Any idea?
It was easily in the, depending on the store, it could be 200 to 300 hours.
I specifically, and I didn't want to
because there were sometimes we would have people on and be like, wow, we have too many people on. But the store was allowed.
I remember seeing it.
But that's where you were given those hours, but given the stipulation too, like use those hours, or else when they do hour reevaluations every year, they would take from that. If they saw it like, hey, you had 200 hours, you only used 100. Maybe you didn't need all those hours, and they'll take some away.
Do you want to know what it got dropped to? 85 a week.
It's funny. That's what it was. That was what it was on the tail end of mine. It was you had 85 hours a week,
and that's
so you had a salaried store manager. Yeah. You had 40 hours for your assistant, 40 hours for your third key, and you had 5 hours for a GA. Yeah. And you know when I used that? Tuesday, when it was new release game day. Heaven forbid there was a new release game day on a different day of the week, because I was screwed. But otherwise, and that's where it sucked, because so now here comes the stuff you had to do that managers had to deal with and stuff like that. So you had 85 hours a week. You had to come in. You had to do title on hands.
Completely forgot about it.
Wait, no.
That's the inventory.
There's inventory too. But title on hands were you would go through, and heaven forbid you'd have a scanner that wouldn't scan or would lose signal, but you had to scan. They would give you a title on hand to do for the week. They would list it out, like on Monday was PS2.
This is that morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go through every game case that you had for the PS2 section, and you had to scan each case to make sure that you had a case out there representing a copy of a game you have in the drawer.
Right.
So if you had 15 copies of Madden, you at least had to have at least one case out there that you scanned. Now, here's the thing, is that if you're in a store that had a crappy scanner and stuff like that, and it would miss-scan, it would double-scan, it wouldn't scan at all, it wouldn't transmit, they would get all that stuff. So you would always try to go through and get through, get a perfect thing, and then you go through and it would print out a list of everything you missed. I'm not going to lie, half the time when it would print out, because this was starting to phase out, the PS2 was starting to slowly phase out and everything while I was there.
PS2 section in most stores was huge.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
But as soon as you saw it and you were like looking through like title on hands for the week, you were like, PS2. Well, I can't get anything else done this week because I have to do this, and this is going to at least take 4 hours.
Do you know in 8 years at CAB what I've never done once?
Is it title on hands?
Never once.
Yeah.
Because like if someone calls and they say, "Do you have X game?" I'll look for the disc.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you were at GameStop at the time, but that was big. So there's a lot of things that lead to CIB because life is weird, right? It's just like when you meet your wife or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, that's weird," right? So about a year before I started at GameStop, I called in. There was a buy two get one. Did I show this story last time?
No.
Okay. So there's a buy two get one, and I always went to the Golden Triangle because that was the place. It was. It was the best. It was awesome.
It was good because it wasn't cluttered. It was never crowded.
And it was big, and it was great.
Yeah, correct.
So buy two get one, and PSP had just come out. So I called about 3 specific games I was looking for. We're talking about they were probably like $40 each at the time. So buy two get ones, whatever.
Yeah. And
I was like, hey, and it was login to answer or whatever. And I was like, do you have these 3 games? Yeah, we absolutely do. Okay, great. I'll be in. Drove the 30 minutes in. They ended up not having one of them, and I was like, how in the F, like, I don't know if I swore, but I was like, how in the F does that happen? I drove the whole way in here for this stuff, and he specifically remembered when he hired me that, like, I let on him. Like, I like, yelled, not, like, yelled, but I was like, dude, are you serious? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I drove the whole way in, and that's why I tell every employee, like, oh, do you... Because what he did was he went out to the wall and he said, oh, we have the case.
Saw the case,
right?
yeah.
So that's why I tell every employee when the first thing is, someone calls about something, you know what you look for? The disc. Because, like, if you find the disc, right, and this happens probably once every 3 or 4 months, because stuff gets legs, if we can put it that way. Even at CIB,
I took the game case.
I'm
had
cool, right?
in it.
Right. So it's like every once in a while to be like, oh, I had this copy of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, but I can't find the case. But I definitely have the game because that's what I quoted you. The game. If you still want it, I'll knock a couple bucks off. Sure, kind of thing. So that's again that's kind of a funny part of it where like logins remember me specifically because he was like, oh, I remembered you because you're the guy who yelled at me. And I didn't remember it. I was like, really?
You're like, me?
Yeah. No, I literally did not remember it. I was like, oh, so like I said, life is funny. It's weird how that works out.
I can't believe it affected him that deeply. Like,
well, he was just like, I guess it like,
it's one of those things that you remember that just sticks with it.
Because other than that, I was in there all the time. So if like for me to like be like, and was never like a problem, and I always reserved everything, and I always had the card. So he probably looked at it like, dang, this guy's a good customer. I always bought used. I never bought. Well, I bought new only for reserves, but whatever. But he was probably like, oh, I messed up really bad to get this guy like mad at me, and I was like, dude, I drove 35 minutes in here. What the heck? You know what I mean?
So we would have to do title on hands. Yeah. Title on hands were terrible.
My God.
Yep.
And then you would get a report and you'd get kind of reprimanded on it because I forgot the Rock Band 2 bundle that was sitting here up on my, I forgot there was PS2. Sorry, my bad. It's there. That's there. You can see it, but you didn't scan it.
Ugh.
Inventory.
Oh, that's where all the managers came into one store.
Going to one store, yep.
Yep.
And all it ended up becoming was just a big roasting event because we would just make fun of each other for how terrible, like, oh, your store is very disorganized and your store looks like crap, but we're going to count it anyway. But you had to sit there. You were sitting there at 6 o'clock in the morning scanning stuff, like falling asleep halfway through just because you had to scan every item in the store.
I remember I was part of that when they opened up the one on 30 East near Target. I was part of the team that
$38.95.
$38.95. Wow.
I don't remember why I remember these.
Why do you remember that
I don't
one?
know.
I remember 375 and that's it. But yeah, that just goes to show you. So from 2007 to 20, when did you leave GameStop? 2010. 2010, the hours went from, oh, well, we have like 200 hours to we have 85 hours. Yep. And then you're at the point where you're like, okay, I have to give my ASM 40, because if you give your ASM 25 or 30, they'll be like, I don't get enough hours.
Deuces I'm out.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, I'm the ASM and I'm already working here and it's annoying and whatever, but I'm only getting 25 hours? No, see ya. You know, you're giving your SGA less than 25 hours and they'll be like, oh, see ya. You know what I mean? Like, this can't be my job, you know? And you got to try to keep a game advisor on who's like, sure, I'll work 5 hours a week.
But I got lucky in the fact that it was Tyler Shully, because Tyler also worked at a movie theater.
Okay.
So it worked out okay.
Yeah, you got lucky there.
He was like, hey, I'll come in Tuesdays, help you with new releases. But, like, other than that, I was just like, everybody else was like, oh, it'd be cool if I could come back. I'm like, I literally cannot give you any hours. And that, like,
well,
and which would be terrible because you would have that really good help that got you through, that did great and everything too. And you went through a very lengthy hire process to even get them on originally. And then to be like, hey,
I gotta let you all go. Every single one.
That's probably the worst conversation I would have to have is with somebody who's really good. Somebody I didn't mind having that conversation with was your best friend, Mr. Sam Stoller.
Oh man, I don't really remember. No, the name sounds familiar.
Bald head, kind of heavy set.
Yeah, he was just real short there.
But
he was real dull, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's a name I haven't heard for quite some time.
and the sad thing, I saw him not too long ago, and like I was like, oh.
He's got to listen to this podcast and be like, you son of a...
Oh, he had like the mustache, right? Or whatever, and he was just like, and I'm like, Brian, why is this... I remember being like, why is this guy...
I don't know. It was Russ's fault. I blame Russ.
That's right. I was like, this dude is like a wet... Like, I would rather have, like, Justin have one of his manic episodes where he's like, everything's the worst. I'd rather have him than someone who's like...
Oh, but maybe the worst is like when you go through, because obviously as a manager you were hit on drive reserve, reserve, or die. So to the point where how do you compete with other GameStops around you, like one that was literally 40 feet away from you,
right,
in the same mall, but yet we had to outdo 44.91.
Yep.
And it's there's
no symmetry there.
So how do you do it?
Yeah.
Well, making stuff up. Hey, if you reserve it with us, we're going to get a free code for a gun or whatever. Like, Justin used to make up some wild stuff. If you reserve it with us, you get a free map and blah, blah, blah. And then the day of the game would come out. Of course, he wasn't working. So I'd be like, hey, sorry my assistant lied to you, but that's not a thing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so put an awkward conversation there. But those were the things that you would get hit with as far as... like settling those things. And that, like, how do you outdo each other? I mean, we had to figure out, because especially being at the mall... midnight releases, Park City Mall would charge you, they'd be like, oh, you can have a midnight release, it's going to cost the store $500 to stay for the mall,
because they needed to have a security guard and all that,
they had to keep the place running kind of thing. So that's where it's like, okay, so we had to make our money's worth. Now granted, like Modern Warfare, we did phenomenal with release of Halo. We had a great release and stuff like that. We ended up racing RC cars in the hallway until the mall cop came by and was like, "You can't do that." And we're like, "Okay." As soon as he left, but I mean, those are the kind of things like you had to figure out like what to do to one up the next store that we were competing with each other for the same pot. It was all and you almost felt bad because you were really good friends with those people, but it's at the same time you were like, hey man, I gotta stab you in the back, sorry.
There's no camaraderie, whereas there should be. It should be like, hey, as a district,
there was
we did this.
There was when I started. When I started, it was like, hey, you didn't reserve it here, you can reserve it there. That's fine, no big deal.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where it was just like, hey, cancel it there, reserve it here.
I specifically remember that people saying, you would be like, oh, just go cancel there and pick it up here. And
it's like, dude. And you would almost be like, oh, it's cool, they don't mind if you do, knowing darn well that that person who is that GA that worked 1 day a week gets hit with 8 cancellations and he looks like crap, like he's not performing or doing his thing. It's like, hey, somebody came in here and just canceled all the reservations on
So I remember once we get to the event that happened to you, once I like totally checked out, I forget if I gave 2 weeks that day or if I gave it very close while I looked for another job, but like when I was working and then someone would come in and be like, I'd like to cancel. Like even if I was on the floor, I'd be like, whoa, Justin, get off that. You need to go do that. I got this. Right?
It
would be like Spencer, negative 40 reserves, and I'd be like, I don't know how that happened. It's crazy, right?
I got one new one.
But it's just like, I'm not going to be like, it. Like the worst part was where like you almost like had to like, when you cared, like beg for someone not to like cancel.
You almost had to be like, if you cancel, my kids won't have dinner tonight. Like,
you had to be like, is there anything else you want to change it to? Are you sure? Well, there's this and this and this.
Yeah, like you try and split it.
Like if I go in and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna pick up that game or something like that. I'll roll it over to something else because I know that it affects them, kind of thing. But
yeah, your average Joe Schmo doesn't know.
No,
He's just
correct.
like, what's the big deal? It's just a reserve.
Yeah, it's my
like,
$5. Give
it's
me my
$5.
Back,
Just I'll take $5. You know what I mean?
But that's where we got to the point where it's like, well, if you don't reserve Madden, you're not going to get it anywhere. Walmart has dump bins full of Madden. Like, you're going to get it. Type of thing.
The other episode, Finch, you talked about some guy coming in and canceling like 30 reserves or whatever. Was his name Greg?
Yes,
Greg Miller.
Yes,
there we
Greg
go.
Miller. Yeah,
I didn't want to.
We're not gonna go any crazier than that. But I kind of remember that of him because he reserved everything.
He would reserve everything at one store. At one store, and he was very good customer and stuff like that. But what he would do is he would be like, I don't like you right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cancel it and I'm going to go to where they like me. Well, now that they don't like me there, I'm going to cancel them and bring them back here again. And he would do that a lot. Sometimes to the point where like we would get an email from corporate like, "Is what's going on?" and blah blah blah. And it's like, well,
like some drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was in an accident.
Yeah, I remember that.
Thing. Yeah, but the thing is too is it was one of those like, but that's where like where numbers were numbers and numbers is that like he would come in to reserve something and Justin would be like, no, you don't have a reserve, you should reserve it.
Yeah.
And he had 4 of the same game reserved and I'm like, so I would be the one to tell him like, dude, you already reserved these, like here's the rest of your money back and stuff like that. Like I couldn't morally I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. But they wanted those numbers no matter what it took, kind of thing. And that's what stinks because it puts you from a person who has good morals and is like I wouldn't want somebody to do it to me to just go ahead.
And again, this is only over maybe a 3-4 year time span where again building this I guess full picture. You had 200 hours, then you have 85 over the course of a couple years. Everyone works with each other. All of a sudden they're not. All of a sudden they're more hardcore. So they're saying do more with less is essentially what they're saying.
Correct.
Do more with less. Now we're on top of you. Now the district manager is going to come in and really be like, oh, here's how you sell something. Instead of being like, you know what, you guys are doing great. Instead of being like, no, what we should really do is follow them around.
I don't think Steve ever like told us how to do.
Well, I was thinking of the guy after
Taylor.
He
was mine and. He was good at what he did.
He was born to be a corporate something or other. That you saw him and you were like, this dude just is a suit, And that's not a negative thing. It's just someone who's really good at being like.
And hence the next topic. He's not my favorite.
Okay, so let's just go.
He was very rarely himself. Correct. I guess was the problem.
Let's just go straight into it. What did you think in general, besides Steve, who you mentioned with the DMs? What did you think about the uppers, the DMs, the RMs, corporate, and all that?
I didn't. When I first started with the company, didn't mind them because at that time they would just, as long as you were doing your job, they didn't harp on you. Nothing changed with those bigger higher ups at all. Like we didn't have change of ownership or anything like that. So like I don't know if just woke up the next day and was just like, hey, we're gonna be terrible salespeople, and and that's the way they're gonna run it. But where it started, it was fun. It was great to work with. It was great to work for, and then towards the tail end of it, I saw it just getting it got bad. It got bad real quick too. Like it almost seemed like it was almost like an overnight thing. Like, all right, you guys were having fun.
Really, like they flipped a switch.
Change,
really, like they flipped a switch, and it just all changed.
And how do you explain that to an employee? How do you explain that to an employee that didn't really not so much didn't care, but now you're giving him a lot less now.
So you actually just hit up on my next question, which is great, which was, while you were managing 375, did you see any warning signs that GameStop was beginning to slip? I mean, that's that right there.
And the biggest thing now, I would say, is because they were so behind in digital. It was all digital and stuff like that, and that's the way it was starting to go, is because you had the the millennials and stuff like that too, that what they want is they it's not as common to have a collector at the age of 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, now versus, you know, back in my day.
in the mid 2000s.
But I mean, but then you had more people that were looking at collecting stuff and stuff like that too, versus people that are just like, hey, I sold my dad's collection. I don't even know what these stupid things are, and it's like, I mean, I know you take them in and just looking at them like, do you know like how much these are worth, you know, kind of thing. But you know, that's it. Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where, and I've talked about this almost every episode, where digital versus physical is a big thing. It's a big issue, but I feel like GameStop always used it as a scapegoat. Now, from me, and like I actually have experience here, you know, I find that if 25% of people only buy digital, I feel like over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, 25% more people have a system and game. I feel like having a PS4 is much more common than even having a 360 or a PS3. Like, I feel like more average people, because, you know, PS4s or Xbox Ones are much more of, like, entertainment devices, very user-friendly, less, like, there's nothing nerdy about them.
But that's what they really geared it towards, though, too. Like, if you, like, it's, you know, went from, you know, to be now an entertainment system kind of thing.
So my thing is, when I look at it from the ground floor, it's like when GameStop's like, oh, it's all this digital stuff. I look at the used game wall for the Xbox One at CIB and I'm like, what digital? Like, or Xbox, like I have to, every week I have to like backstock more and more and more Xbox One. So I'm like, what are these then? What are these? You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that's, granted, I'm not saying it's nothing, but I'm saying the percentages work out where it's almost the same anyway. And I feel like GameStop's big thing is like, oh, we're doing poorly because digital. And it's like, no, you're doing poorly because nobody wants to shop there because it's a terrible experience.
Yeah, don't blame it on the digital.
Like, people would like their, you know, CIB isn't the cheapest place in the entire world. You know, I'm sure you can find stuff on eBay for $1 or $2 cheaper kind of thing, but they come in because it's fun and it's there and it's a good thing to do. And that's how GameStop was. It was like, you know, obviously the internet was less, you know, around or whatever, but it's like, it was fun to go to. You could pick everything up at once, and it was good. It was a good experience.
It became a destination, and that too. Like, people would, you know,
play demos and like just hang out.
Yeah, like people. Oh my gosh, yeah, people use those demo units for more than just like to set their slushy on and stuff like that.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I feel like that's such a cop-out for, we've explained so many things so far as to why they were slipping, even in 2010, and it's 2019, that now they're like, it's just digital. It's like, is it because GameStop is a swear word, excuse me, in the industry? Like, if you say GameStop, for the most part, people groan.
Whoa,
like, it's just like, okay.
But the thing is, too, is they blame it on that, so they've recently tried to, like, hey, let's try apparel.
But they went too far on it, and Finch says the same thing. Instead of having CIB, when we expanded at CIB, we did it where we added extra stuff, like pops and stuff, but we didn't take away the games at all. It just worked out where I was like, oh, crap, I want to expand games by 20%, but I have 50% more space. So I was like, well, let's get fun stuff.
Yep.
But with GameStop, they're like, we have very little space. Let's take away games,
and let's add
stuff.
Remember when at 375, like, you couldn't get another rack in that store because there was just a bunch. And then once I was gone, they were like, "Hey, let's pull 3 of these racks out." I'm like, "Wow, you can actually move in there."
Yeah.
Because 375, if anybody's been into the one in Sears Wing, has a pillar in the middle of the sales floor that, you know, it thwarts you.
And then there's one near the back too.
Yeah, for no reason. It's
awful.
Yeah.
Freaking load bearing. Come on. So I think you harped on this next one. So employee morale really started to slip then, even again back in 2010. It was harder to do anything. And as you mentioned, people were almost fighting amongst each other at that, which is ridiculous. So one of the big things that happened back then when you were there was the new Power Ups reward card. Since then, they've had the Elite card, and now they're getting rid of the card.
They got rid of the Elite card,
Yeah, they got rid of the Elite, and now they're getting rid of... Do you guys know that? They're like literally getting rid of the 10% off card. Do you guys know that?
No.
Yeah, they're like... That's a thing. I believe it's still... I guess you would call it the beta, or trying it out in stores. Yeah. But the plan is to just stop the 10% card.
Just take away the discount?
Just take away the discount, which is like, oh... Okay.
But keep the prices the same.
Keep the prices the same, yeah. Wow. So when I heard that, I was like... GameStop is dying. Like, that was the big thing when I heard that. I was like, no. Because that was the one thing they had. And especially, I was like, you know, Best Buy's crazy Gamers Club reward thing is ending. I don't know if you guys know that. It's ending. And the only people who had it were people who had already signed up. And it's like, you have this next year, and that's it.
Yep.
Kind of thing. But then to hear GameStop was doing away with the card, it's like, oh wow, they really are in trouble, you know. So you were there when they first started the silver power up rewards card. Can you just briefly tell us how that was?
Oh God.
Yeah, I know, right?
Here's a packet. It's 15 pages long. Read it, understand it, teach.
And it's a F-bomb card. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like, I'm not, like, this isn't, like, quantum theory. You know what I mean? It's a card. Why does it have to be so complicated?
But,
you
like,
know
we
what
would try to explain it to people in that, too, in the least difficult way, especially when you knew, like, hey, I'm going to pitch this card to them. It's going to benefit them because of what they're buying. We would do it based on, like, hey, you're going to save $10 by getting this card, so it's going to cost you $5. But, like, we had to think about it, like, how can we dumb this down to the point where just, like, give me $5, I give you discount. Like to that point, like it was that bad because you had to explain it to that person who was just like, I don't understand. You get a magazine, you get 10% off. You owe me $5. That's it. Like it got to, like we would have to do the point. I remember Spencer doing to the point where he was just like, listen, you're going to save $12.75. They're like, well, sounds great, son. He's like, I'm like, did they actually? He's like, no, but I sounded confident in what I was saying. So
dude, back then, I'm so glad I don't have to do it anymore, and I would never do it again. But I could get that stuff if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. Like if I was like Brian,
we would actually make it a game. We would actually make it a game. I'd be like, I bet you can't get that person to buy. He'd be like, I got you. They come up like, how did you do that? He's like, listen, they just, you know.
I want to say another thing. So early on in CIB's life, and I'm talking early on, I think this is when Brian was in between jobs from FYE and RIP and Turkey Hill. So this is like the first 6 months of CIB. I remember Brian would like help out once in a while, just once in a while, where I was like, dude, I'll help you while you're looking for some kind of thing. And I remember just like, like Brian at retail is like none other. Like I'm pretty good nowadays, but he's like none other. Like he would be like, anything else I can get you?
It was the day Spencer's like, listen, I haven't had a day off in a while. I was like, I got this. I'll do it.
I think I had a specific thing I had to do.
And I sent him like the numbers after. He's like, what did you do?
It was crazy. He's like,
you did like double what we normally do. Your trades were ridiculous. Like, what did you do? I was like, you're welcome.
But like sometimes I would also work with him, and he would say, anything else I can get you? And they'd be like, actually, also a PS3 and also and like it wasn't just like also like a small game. It was like also I forgot about this, but $250 worth of stuff. So like I would be like, how did he say it? What can I get you?
Yeah.
What can I get you? There's a secret, you know. And it's all about the tone and also just being actual like helpful. And that's the tough part with GameStop is you want to be helpful, but you're like, dude, I need your number right now. You know what I mean? Like, or I need to get numbers from you. It's not just like, oh, it's great. You know, we had a good time. You know?
And that's and the customers are way different now too. So like going through, like you have some people that walk in, they're like, I don't even know what this is. It's like, then why did you even come in?
Well, the couple other things that I've heard from these YouTubers that I watch. So now GameStop sells all this nonsense. You remember back in the day, one of the things we hated, kid comes in, picks up a $2 game. Hey, I want this. Okay, well, you don't have the damn card, so that hurts my numbers. Turns around, oh, I want this as well. Kid. And you'd have to be like, kid,
18,
I will gladly
transactions.
I will gladly help you when you're all set up. And that's how kids do it. You know, nowadays at CIB, someone gets a pack of Pokemon cards and then wants another one. I'm like, I don't care. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But that would kill you.
Your corporate might call you.
Yeah, they might call. Or like the worst was like, hi, all 4 of my kids want to do separate transactions. Like, do you have the card? Oh, no.
Yeah. Little Johnny, it's going to save him 30 cents, but in the long run, you'll save $1 today.
Yeah.
No thanks. Okay.
And again,
great.
Nowadays with all the little BS they have, it's like, oh, Rick and Morty $3 thing. Oh, another Rick and Morty $3 thing.
Remember we at the tail end of my time there, and that's it. We had the little PS2. It was the little grab bin. It was in a sleeve.
Like $1.
It was in a sleeve. It was $1. Kids would be like, oh, Madden 2002. I'm like, yeah, great game. For you, $1.
So I heard, now this guy, the YouTuber, worked at GS after you left, but I heard one of the things they did to encounter customers like made me cringe and groan so much. So like you were told when they came in and they're like looking at their section, essentially you're tailoring it is the best way I could put it. You're like following over there, hovering, being like, What can I do for you today? What kind of games do you like?
What kind of games do you play?
What kind of games do you play?
That
right? No, yeah. And there's another step where they're looking at the PS4 section. You would go back to your desk. You would print out all the PS4 games coming out, hand them the paperwork, and be like, hey, just so you know, here are all the PS4 releases coming out. I would literally leave. Like dead to rights. If I was just stopped into a GS and both those things happened, I'd be like, I'm sorry, man. You know what I mean? I'm done. Like I would literally leave if someone handed me like a brochure of like, here are the new games coming out. It's like, I'm done.
See, like, so I stopped in a GameStop not that long, a few months ago, and I stopped in. I was like, all right, I'm gonna reserve a couple games so I remember when they come out and everything, because I won't remember. So like I'm doing it, and I'm like, all right, I reserved like 4 games. I'm like, okay, I know it's got to help his numbers away. He's like, are you sure that's everything? And I just looked at him, I was like, buddy, just don't push it. I was like, I'm not gonna be that guy right now, but just don't push it. And he's like, hey man, I didn't mean anything. I was like, just we're done there. We're done there.
We're cool.
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. If you take it one step further, we're not cool.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And it's just like, I feel bad because like that's just how they're programmed nowadays. Yeah. It just Oh,
see, I like when they start going on that, I'm like, listen man, I'm going to be real with you. I worked for you before. Just end the conversation.
Yeah, it's like, it's cool, you know.
Well, and so as we were sitting there and looking at this, I was like reading everything over, and I was like, I remembered 2 customers that stuck out in my head from Lit Spike was Mike Gerlitsky.
Yeah, he was the ghetto guy.
The pom-poms guy.
Yeah.
He came with his half gallon of chocolate milk.
Very skinny, short, white guy who was very ghetto. I guess is the best way of putting it. Be like, oh man. And back then at Let's Spike, it was Dat, Matt, and John. It was P2, P3, well, not P4 because we weren't there for P4, not PS3. The S is forget about it. The S is too much.
You got that P4. He's like, nah, man. See, I had them pom poms with that girl over there, and I'm like, what are you coming in? He talked to us, and we're like, dude, we have no idea what you're talking. Do you need to buy anything? Nah, man. See, then go.
Go home, dude.
The other one was, and I swear I heard it in my sleep for the longest time, was, do you have, oh my god.
For the GameCube.
It was,
Dr. Muto or something like that.
No, it was, oh my god, what was his name? Was it Tony Wolf? Because he used to come in with him and his mom would come in and they'd have matching pajamas and stuff like. Oh yeah, and you're like,
no. So here's the great part. We have inherited all of them. Tony Wolf is I'm probably going to see him tomorrow because he wants to pick up a Switch.
And that's awesome.
I used to see him out at the Lidditz store.
I see him once a week.
I just remember him always calling.
He lives in Ephrata.
I just remember him always calling, like, and Spencer would always be the one to take the phone call. He'd be like,
"No, I'm not going to say besides their nickname because they're great customers. I'm not going to say anything but their nickname. The Smeltzers, we have them. They are fantastic customers, and they are not. It was the guy and his older mom, right?
Yep.
We have them. We have. It's funny because almost all the we don't have Mike Gerlitsky because he probably doesn't get out of Lancaster City,
probably in jail.
And we don't have. I remember the one guy. I forget his name, but he always he was like middle aged. He had the kind of Jonathan Taylor Thomas cut, and he always wore a Hawaiian shirt, and he always picked up weird games like Dead or Alive, Extreme Beach Volleyball.
I play it for the graphics.
Yeah, I play it for the
story.
And I was like, okay, bud, I got you. I remember that guy. But most of them we actually inherited. So when you're awesome. Like, remember Tony Wolf? I'm like, I talked. Tony Wolf calls the store.
Yep.
Every day. So I talk to Tony Wolf every day.
Yep.
So don't worry about that.
So
I remember that. All right. So let's skip this over. By the way, fantastic conversation. I hope you all listened to the whole gosh dang thing. We're to the point of that fateful day.
D-Day.
So what we've done so far in this podcast is we have shown that Brian was an excellent manager that really turned things around. And although things have been getting tougher, they were still staying the course, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So tell us a story about the day of the event that led to you not working at GameStop. Not the actual day where you left, but the day of the event.
The day that caused me to leave. So
yes.
So obviously the ESRB is a big thing in carding people for video games and stuff like that, for mature rated games. Anybody who knows me knows I'm very adamant about it. I'm very on top of it. I was on top of my associates so much. But there really wasn't a focus from the company. It was more just like hey, just make sure you card if they're under the age of 17. Okay, that was just kind of like common knowledge kind of thing, but they didn't really harp on it. Now, like with where I work at now, with Turkey Hill and that too, with selling tobacco products and stuff like that too, they're very adamant. We talk about it all the time and stuff like that.
Understandable.
So
it's cigarettes, by the way. It's cigarettes, and we'll get to that then.
So, a girl came in, her and what appeared to me as her son. It turned out later on it was her brother. She bought BioShock for the Xbox and for the 360 and bought it, and then a week later, like an entire week had gone by. I didn't even remember this transaction, and that I come back from my lunch break, I think it was. I came back.
So you started the shift?
I started my shift. I was about halfway through my shift, and then I walked back in, and they tell me that my boss and my boss's boss are there.
And you know it's bad news.
And I'm like, well, at first I'm like, they're here all the time, so I can't imagine. But then when you walk in your back room and they have a laptop open and they're both standing there with like a disapproved parent look on their face, I was like, what's going on? And they asked me if I remembered this transaction, out of the million transactions that we had to ring up. I was like, okay, I kind of remember that one. Like, well, it turns out the girl was under the age of 17, and she bought it, and I did not card her. So
she was a secret shopper, right?
So she was a mystery shopper for the ESRB, whether it was through the ESRB through Gamestop, and I found out later that Gamestop that was their cop out, is that if you failed a ESRB shop, instead of them taking the hit and getting fined or anything like that, they terminated the associate. So no second chance, no hey, we know we've seen your track history before, and we know you card. We know it must have been just a lapse in judgment, whatever the case was. There was no second chance. It was just like done deal, boom, see ya.
Go home.
Thanks for putting in 5 years, but you're done.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, how did you feel?
I stood there in shock. I couldn't believe. I was dumbfounded.
Yeah, I mean,
by the whole thing.
From 1 second you go from like, oh wow, I wonder if I can be a DM someday, a district manager someday, to like, I got
feeling like you're on top of the world, to like now you have nothing.
And it's not like you made a big that's the worst part about all these.
The ESRB isn't even law. Like it is just a
quite frankly, we don't follow it. Now, I'm not an idiot. Like if some 6-year-old comes up,
I'm not gonna sell.
But
GTA
like if some kid
little...
has like a mustache and he's like, hey, I want to buy COD World War II, I'm like, okay. What I'll say is
common sense.
What I'll say is, bud, are your parents going to come in here and yell at me? No. Are you sure? You're not lying to me. Because then, if the parents call up or stop in, I go, you got to talk to your son
because your kid lied. To
because
me.
Your kid is a liar, kind of thing. And that happened. That I think that only ever happened 1 or 2 times, and I'd be like, I'd say it nicer, like, I asked him, and he said that it was fine with you. If it's not, that's great. Let's do the return, and let's, forget about it. We're fine. But, it's just one of those things where, again, if they're 5 years old and they're like, give me GTA, I'm like, nah, bud, where's your parent? And, of course, if the parent says, oh, it's fine, it's like, okay,
We're still, like, almost like, you almost feel like you still have to be like, well, just to let you know.
But, yeah, like, a lot of times, like, kids are so used to it, they'll be like, I'm 16, but I'm turning 17 next week. I'm like, dude, are your parents going to yell at me for picking up Medal of Honor? No? Okay, whatever. Just get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine, no second chance. So, obviously, you were just dumbfounded.
But to stand there and, like, with my district manager that, like, became more... He was more than just a district manager in that, too. He was a good friend. He was, he's somebody I looked up to in that, too, that I wanted to get into his position and stuff like that, too, was... Like, to him, I could tell for him, for his boss, it was whatever. It was just another day at the office. But for him, it seemed like it hurt a little more in that, too, like it did for myself.
I remember everyone, it was very somber.
I just went out in the middle of the mall and just sat down. It was just like, I didn't know what to even think or do.
Yeah, you just go home and you're like, hey.
Because at that time, I'm like, cool. So now I have no job and I have 2 kids that I have to support. And this is going to suck. It's but it was one of those things. And then, but given the hey, we're gonna let you go, but then also in the same turn being told, well, in 6 months you can reapply, because that's the length that you have to wait to reapply. And at first I'm like, I'm never going to reapply at all, ever, for here. No way. This is the way it's going to go. Why would you tell me, like, you're fired, but if you want to come back 6 months later, that's fine.
You can come back, but you can be let go at any time again. And that's all these stories, from Finch to YouTube and whatever, all these stories are, you're taken to the back, HR's there or whatever, and you're like, whoa, what's this? And it's like, you would know in the bottom of your heart, it's like, okay, you got me, I stole money, right? But you're like, literally, what is this? And it's like,
and
well, your drawer was off by
dumbfounded,
$20. It's like, okay. Or the one guy I watch on YouTube, he's like, some assistant manager put in was like, he's harassing people, and it's like, no. And literally HR was like, okay, well, we just need to check to make sure you're still going to work here. And he was like, no, I quit, kind of thing. So, like, if it comes to that point, it's like, I've been here X years.
Yeah.
You know me. You know me.
And that's why I was like, I have a rapport. You can ask any of my people in that, too. And then, but no, didn't.
So what did that do for the morale of the store, of everyone else at the store?
Oh, God. Everybody wanted to leave. Nobody wanted to have to be. The little bit of people that were there, that were still there, were people that had been working for me for the last 2-3 years and that too, and they didn't want to be there because also then for them it was the fear of like, oh God, like at any second I could sneeze the wrong way and be done, and that's not a way to for your associates. Your associates shouldn't feel like they're Big Brother's watching every waking second, because then that's when they're gonna do something not with malicious intent. They're just gonna do it just because they're I messed up, I'm sorry type of thing.
And it broke up a good team of people. Everyone wanted to leave. I don't know if it was instantly, but I at some point was asked to be SGA, move up a step, and I was like, no. I was like, let me raise that with my 2 weeks. Thanks. You know what I mean? So it's like literally every single person was like, oh, well, I'm out. And it turned this whole $2.5 million store to like, okay, well, I'm out. I'm done.
And you went back in there a week, 2 weeks later, and nobody was there that was there anymore.
Yeah, that store changed guard.
Yeah.
So many, and still does.
It still does, yeah.
Yeah.
Still does.
Whereas if Brian was there, I bet Justin would probably be complaining every day, but still be there.
I think at this point I probably would have hired him.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I would have gotten to that.
He would have done it until you're like, all right, I'm done.
Listen, dude.
But just like I said, just for that one time. Now Brian works at Turkey Hill, and I asked him this earlier. Turkey Hill sells cigarettes. Cigarettes cause cancer.
And literally kill people.
Don't put
potentially.
Don't put an asterisk there. They quite literally, it says on the damn thing. I don't care if you smoke, it's fine, but they lead to more cancer, right? Yes. Brian, tell us what happens if somebody does not check ID for cigarettes.
If somebody doesn't check ID for cigarettes, and we have a internal shopper in that too, they receive a red card, which means that they are suspended for a week and they have to retake the new hire class, but then they get to return back to work. Okay,
so what you're saying is mature rated video games are more dangerous than cigarettes.
In the eyes that is GameStop, yes.
Brian said it here first.
Yeah, because like I said, I wanted to run it by you, but I have a friend that works at a Turkey Hill, and he posted on the last video, and he said, "Oh, we don't even get let go for doing that." And I'm like, "Really? Like really? Wow!" And that is absolutely. Yeah. I understand again with like tobacco, alcohol, like getting in trouble, but it's not an instant termination. Like that, yeah. If they would have said
the only one would be an instant would be if a state trooper had somebody who came in, but that person is like 15 or 16, like way under where we card. We card people up to the age of 30.
Right.
So, if you get hit with something like that, that's a little different, because that's I didn't even try, because this person's not even old enough to get a state ID.
Right.
Let alone type of thing.
Right. But that's being maliciously bad. That's just being super, super, super bad.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, you probably answered this, but how does that make you think about a company that would do that to you? That would just fire you on that? I mean,
yeah. If I was an associate and watched it happen to a manager that I looked up to and stuff like that too, I wouldn't. I would just be like, I can't work here anymore. I can't, because for fear of, you sneeze in the wrong direction.
And you can't have that. And talking to RJ, who worked at GS just a couple years ago, it was constant. And it's to the point where it's constant. Like literally, if you're a long tenured manager, they will find something to let you go, because they can hire someone who is cheaper.
Yeah.
And they save $5,000 for the store. Great. Now you have someone who doesn't give a crap, and they just they
somebody
it's a
brand
fresh
new
hire.
that has no idea.
Yeah, but it's just you make 40 instead of 35 per year. But that matters, So we'll just the first thing you do, the first time your drawer is off, the first anything, the first time again that one guy, the one assistant manager said, "Oh, he's harassing people," and it's like, well, clearly you aren't, but we got to see what's going on. We got to see if we're letting you go. And it's like, if HR ever says we just got to check with HR and see what's up, just leave. You know what I mean? It's
you're getting fired.
Yeah, if they go, okay, great, we're leaving, but if they say we just got to call the boss, it's like you're getting fired. So just
we're gonna make a phone call. You just sit tight. I'm like, no, I'll see you later.
Hypothetically here for you, Brian, if you never got fired from GameStop, could you see yourself still being there?
If I based it off of where trends were going, probably not. I probably would have looked for something else and that too. But if the times were the way they were when I started, yeah, I would still see myself being there. But like the way it was going, I can't see myself being happy, like wanting to go to that next step and be happy about where I'm at versus, well, I just went there because I was the most tenured, so just kind of luck. This is how they did it.
Quite literally, every key holder back in the day was like looking at it as like, this is something I can do. Like, it's not my dream job in the world, but like I could eventually become a manager, and I could
make
do
a career out of it.
Yeah.
There's people who have. There's some people that are very successful in that too. But it is one of those companies that like when you get out, you sit there and look like, what have I been doing for the last umpteen years?
We discussed that. Yeah.
Every single person, from RJ to Finch to you, every single person who has ever left GameStop immediately, and when I say immediately, I mean within a month, got a better job that pays better.
It's
every single one, and it's like literally like being in a bad relationship. And
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Sorry.
Same thing though, but it is that.
GameStop looks so good on a resume too because it's a Fortune 500 company. Mm-hmm. So it looks super good if they're like, oh, you like help manage one of these stores.
But it's like you're in these bad relationships and you're like, well, this is the best I can ever do. And then the second you stop it, you're like, oh my god, like the world's my oyster, like wow. And then like you'll find someone, or it doesn't matter because you're not with that person. Who the F cares? You know what I mean? Like who cares? So like literally every single person, everyone has like instantly got a better job.
But like it was
even RJ went from GameStop to Best Buy and makes like $3-4 an hour more. You know what I mean? It's just like.
But there's things that what they would get you with was like it'd be crap all year long. But hey, for a week you get to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you have to do stuff or whatever. Cool. I probably wouldn't have gone to Vegas with if it wasn't for them, and then went to San Antonio, Texas, stuff like that. Like there's those cool different things, but like to some people, like it was like oh, that made up for everything. I'm like, no, it didn't make up for the other 11 months and 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like it didn't. It was just, hey, we're gearing you up for not seeing your family the rest of the year.
They would like give managers, maybe back in the day, I don't know if they do that now, but like copies of games and stuff that.
We would get boxes of stuff that would be sent back, and like when games released, they would send a manager a copy and stuff like that.
But it's like, is that worth it? You know what I mean? Like again, at the same time,
back then it was.
But back then it was too, because when Rock Band Beatles came out, remember our store was number 1 for reservations.
That's right.
And that with it, and we were not so much number 1 with reservations, but with reservation pickups and that too, because you could have people reserve the crap out of it, but our pickup rate was 100% and everything too. So we got, by we I mean me and all the other store managers in our district got tickets to see Beatles Love Cirque du Soleil. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was like, and they were like $200 tickets or whatever. So it's like, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. What did my associates get for it? They did all. It's they did all hard work, and they were just like, "Here you go." Even if I would have done nothing, and like it really, like I didn't have to do much because these guys did that stuff on their own, but did it naturally. Like I didn't even have to be like, "Hey, listen, hey, if this is what you want us to focus on, we'll focus on it," and that was it. But that was one of those things where it was like, "Oh, cool, that's nice," but I can only share pictures with my associates. Like, I don't have. For some of the associates, it was the physical stuff. So when I would get the swag box and stuff like that after a conference, it'd be like, it would have hats and backpacks and lanyards, blah, blah, blah. I would just put it in the office and be like, you guys have at it.
Oh,
like,
man.
Like, have at it, because
I heard that some
like,
would just keep the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
It's just like,
my God. I think the only one box I took something out was when the Ghostbusters video game was coming out, and they had a shirt or whatever. I was like, I'm just going to take that. Y'all can have anything else, because, type of thing. But those were those things that didn't happen enough to justify it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, because my manager came back from conference, and he was like, I took the stuff I wanted to keep. You and Matt can like decide between this, and like I got like a limited edition Resident Evil pin, which was pretty sweet, and like a little Mega Man thing that I still have. But like compared to like what the rest of the box was,
well, we were getting like sometimes too. It was hey, we're gonna have a contest or whatever too. You're gonna get a system or whatever too, and it's like, okay. But like stuff would come in and be like, it'd be like a game. It would be like an anime kind of game in that too. I'm like, I'm not gonna play it, so I'm gonna give it to somebody else who's gonna play it. I'm not gonna, because they're like, well, but they would heavily emphasis on like, don't return it. You can trade it in.
Oh yeah.
I know damn well there was a lot of people that went through and just returned it, and they were like,
stores.
yep,
yeah. Okay, so we're heading off to the final chapter where we're talking just kind of GameStop's free fall then, and we're getting Brian's opinion on this. So as a former manager, what do you feel is the main reason or reasons, just a couple of them, that GameStop is just doing so poorly right now?
It's the ruling with an iron fist. That's really what it is.
That's exactly what we were talking about last time, dude. That's
100%.
it's the what's the word I'm looking for? Micromanaging.
Yeah.
It's the constant micromanaging of everything. You cannot.
Let me make a mistake.
perform.
Let me make a mistake. Let me learn from it.
Yeah.
Don't tell me like, well, this is how you have to do it. You have to do it this way, this way, this way. Every store's different. It's not a cookie cutter kind of thing. It's not like every store is different. Every clientele is different. Even within
the mall.
Even within the mall.
Yep.
The people who shopped in the Sears wing, completely different from the people who shopped in the center of the mall.
Yep.
Like a huge difference, but we knew that.
Yep. But corporate doesn't. Like, they don't know, like, Golden Triangle is like, there's some days at Golden Triangle where it's kind of seedy, you get some seedy things going on, So, like, but the people that have to be there have to be, like, a little, like, mentally tougher, because you're going to deal with a lot more BS than like a bunch of soccer moms at the mall.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that when they micromanage everything as the same, it's like, you just don't get it.
Yeah,
you not understand your company.
You can't have that same thing like you go to Fruitville Pike.
Oh,
like, you have people that are...
Fruitville Pike was robbed, too.
Yeah, like...
Brian was at that store. Like, he was there that night, I believe.
Really?
When it got robbed, yeah.
Gosh.
I'll have to message and double check, but yeah.
But, like, there's different things that, you can't cookie cutter. You have to go through, and, like, that's what I like with the company I work for now, and that even with the new owners and stuff like that, too, they're big on, we want your feedback. Tell us what's working. Tell us what's not working, and that, too. Give us that feedback, and we'll actually do something with it. And that too, we do every year. We do surveys and stuff like that too that are very helpful. That change different things that we do, and from either the attire that we wear or stuff like that. But it goes a long way, And the employees have a voice. That's probably the biggest thing too. Is the employees there do not have a voice. They're spoken for. They're spoken for and constantly told that they're expendable and that they should leave. I don't know how many times we would have to tell people that like you can be replaced. Yeah. Who would want to work? I wouldn't want to work. I wouldn't want to work if you're going to remind me every day that I could be gone tomorrow. Like. Yeah. And in fact, I've heard a lot of stories of like, if a manager or someone would complain about something to do DM, they would say the same thing, like, that's fine, just quit. And it's like, really? Like, you just tell me to, like, it's not just like, okay, I'll consider it. It's like, that's okay, just quit. That's fine. I mean, we can replace you. We'll replace you right now. Do you want us to replace you? I just make a phone call. RJ said that for, when he was SGA there, he would be like, wow, I get like 15, 20 hours. What can you do about it? They'd be like, oh, it's not your main job. Like GameStop, they don't consider anyone but the manager. Even ASM, they consider it like, oh, is this your main job as assistant manager? It's your side job. But however, even as an assistant manager, it would be that mentality. But you as assistant have to have open availability. Yeah, yeah, open availability. But this isn't gonna. But this isn't your main thing. This isn't your main thing, dude. Yep. So we need these 20 hours and these exact 20 hours, but. You really ought to have another job because this is not your career. And it's just like, just look at it, again, compared to 10 years ago that. So if you were suddenly CEO of GameStop,
what are just a few things that you would do to right the ship? This is actually, I've seen lots of topics on this exact question, and we could go.
GameStop better listen up.
We could go on and on about this, but just a few examples. Now, you already mentioned the stop rolling with the iron fist. Just let your employees do their dang jobs.
It would be, obviously as a CEO, you'd have to sit back and let everybody else, deliberate it down and stuff like that too, delegate it downwards and that too. But they need a lot more of that interaction with these people, like see who they're dealing with. I think what they need to do is take a look back and sit back and realize what made them so successful years ago. Not even, there was GameStop before I was, but how did GameStop go through and eat up FuncoLand, eat up EB Games, eat up this, eat up that, and become this entity that it is now? They didn't do it overnight. What made they need to go back to their core values. Like what made them that destination? Because especially for them, they are going to get killed if they keep pushing in that too. People are going to go to digital. They're going to seek out other places that they can go and stuff like that. I mean, benefit for CIB.
Right.
But at the same time too, is how many times do people come into you bitching and complaining about GameStop, and it's like you're almost like, well, I can't do anything about it.
Just come here.
Yeah. But just come here. Well, they're like, well, we want to complain to you about it. You're like, oh, I can't do anything.
Dude, I've had people that have come into us for 8 years selling us stuff, right? And they know that we pay more. Like, there are times, right now, GameStop's giving $96 for a PS4 in cash. So I could do the bare minimum and be like 105. But we give like 130 because what's fair? Like 130 in cash. That's fair. It's fair for the margins. It's fair for what you would expect, kind of thing. But I get people all the time that I see, once a month for 8 years that are like, "Wow, I called GameStop and it's only $96," and it's like, bro.
I told you this.
You've sold 1,000 things to us. Like you buy stuff and then you sell it to us a month later. Like, why don't you just cut the middleman and stop causing yourself? Here's another example. Now it was a Saturday. We were having a busy Saturday, and there was a guy with his kid they came in and they checked out and were like, "Dude, I was just at GameStop," and he's like, "I know," because he's a good customer. He's like, "I know, but I had a gift card," and he's like, "What can I do?" You know what I mean? I was just gonna get a PS.
I think I was there for that.
You might have been. He was like, "What can I do?" I wanted to get a PSN card, and he's like, "It was Saturday at noon." And I was standing in line for so long that I just left. And he's like, all I want to do is use this MFing gift card.
Yep.
And there was one, and he specifically said, he was like, there was one person working. And I'm like, nah, noon on a Saturday? Because our busiest time is generally between 11 to 1 on Saturday. Sometimes on weird, it's 1 to 3, but it's generally within those 4 hours. It's just busiest time. And I was like, no, there's one person working at noon on a Saturday. He's like, yeah, and every single, and you can hear this all with RJ last part, but everything took forever. I was in line for 20 minutes. I couldn't even spend this damn gift card.
Because while you're helping that one customer out, they still have to hit every spiel,
single thing.
Every little thing. And you can't just be like, where we would have been like, hey, there's a line of people. You're in here all the time. We'll talk about the discount card later and that too. Like, I'll take the hit on it this time or whatever. You'll be back. It's cool. Now they're like, now it's just like, well, I've got to hit point A. Oh, you said no? That's okay. We'll go to point C then.
Yeah.
Oh, you said yes to that? Okay, we'll go back to point B.
Or even it's like not only are they forced to do all that and brainwash the employees, but there's no reasoning. There's no upper reasoning going on. Like, for instance, I have someone come in with a big trade, right? But then I have 2 people come up to check out. What do? You take the checkout first, because their thing takes 15 seconds. I'm not going to make someone wait 10 minutes because I can check them out.
Hold on,
I'll be like, hey, you understand? You got the trade. It's going to take me a little bit of time. You want to look around? 10 minutes. Let me check them out. Let's see what's going on, right? But like a lot of GameStop people will just be like, let me just do this trade.
I have to finish this. They're still looking. I have to finish this.
And it's just like, you got to make it a good experience.
Yep.
And there's a lot. I mean, the Brian hit on a couple of the steps, but I haven't been in a GameStop since the Effort One opened, but going in there sounds exhausting. It sounds exhausting.
The lead up to it. Like, the lead up to just going in, you're just you almost in your head played out.
It's such a negative, in everyone's head, it's such a negative thing.
Yep. I almost think, if I go to the one in Park City or whatever, too, all right, if I'm going to go in here, I know what I'm going to go for. I'm going to beeline right to it, and I just want to get out. Because if not, if I hesitate for a second, well, no, half an hour's gone by.
So, I've gone there several times now because I pre-ordered Sekiro and all that, and I'd been in there before. and they like I told them, I was like, I don't ever need the card. I don't care about the discount. Like,
come in, purchase, gone.
Yeah, like I'm here to buy this thing. Yeah. And thankfully, Kylie Bottoms, when she was there, whenever I would come in, she'd be like, "All right, cool, see you." Whatever, no biggie.
Right to it,
Yep. But now that she's gone, every time I go in there, I'm like, dude, just stop. Let me go.
Yeah, especially if that's the one big guy that works in there now or whatever too. Like
he's nice.
Yeah, he is a nice guy. And that's what stinks because he is a nice guy, and you get those that are nice guys, but you're just like you almost want to just be like, listen, dude.
Yeah.
Cut the crap. Just in out. I'm already putting my card in. I'm already putting my card in.
Yeah.
Well, you have to. Nope, I already put it in. Nope, it's already done.
Like I said, even going in to just pick up a game just sounds so exhausting. And that's if we feel that way, and we've worked there, and we're like in the industry, and we almost understand where they're coming from. How does Joe Schmo, who is like,
has no
they won't
idea.
shut up? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if he's just like, I don't like. I'm now. You know what? I am ordering on Amazon because I can't go into the store without him just like offering me 100 things.
Like, ma'am, I know your kid's screaming and crying and knocking stuff over.
Do you want to sign up for this card?
But we have a gameplay guarantee. Yeah. Let me tell you how it works. A little Johnny's tearing your store apart or whatever. Yeah, no. Get at.
And
no,
that's
the person you're just like,
yeah.
Hey, you know what? I hope you have a great day. And get them in and out. Cause
we do that. We do that all the time. Like sometimes if there's like two people standing in line and they both come at the same time, but one's much more annoying, I'm like, "Hey, come here. Let me get you." Yep. All right. See.
They're like, "Wow."
You're like pushing them out.
Yeah.
See ya. Okay. Yep. See ya. And then you go to the other guy and you're like, "I hope you understand." They'll be like,
I totally. He was talking to me back there, and
be like, "Hey," you just like point at him. You're like, "You, And they'll be like, "Go." They'll be like, "Go." In fact, I want them also out of this store as well. But like when you have someone just giving that spiel, when I heard that, it really changed how I felt because like a lot of times I'm like, we still look at the GameStop because it's only 5 miles away and be like, we still have to like look at them as competition. But when I heard that, I was like, it's way worse than I thought, for them, because like when that dude was just like, I don't even want to be there. I just want to use my gift card. But I just want to use my gift card.
I'm glad that one person that leaked the whole Circle of Life thing and stuff like that too, because it was nice for them to be like, hey, listen, it's not as glamorous as it seems. You know what I mean? Like even Finch said too, is that it looks great from the outside, and then you go in and you're like, what?
Yeah,
this is not what you guys are evil.
It's catastrophically like mind-blowing how bad it is once you get in.
So besides not micromanaging them, what are some things that you could see GameStop to do to treat their employees a little bit better?
I mean, the biggest thing is get back to the customer experience, and that now too is you can't give a customer a good shopping experience when you have one person working.
It's impossible.
Even if it's like they manage it down to a point. It's just spend the money to earn the money. You know what I mean? Spend that little extra that you're paying. You're paying your GAs minimum wage anyway, so it's not like you're paying. It's not like McDonald's where it's like, hey, fresh out of high school, $15 an hour, which is dumb by the way, and they still can't get the order right. But
well, not only that, it's like if they raise minimum or whatever to 15, it's like, what about all the people who make $17 an hour? You know what I mean? It's like I would be mad. I would be like, they're
over the threshold. So
they're over. Yeah. It's like, oh well, Jimmy Dumb Pants over there who can't do anything gets 15. You're great. And you get 17. It's like, nope. Anyway, that's a whole nother.
But that's where spend that little. Even as a company, they would make money. They're making money hand over foot to begin with. And that too, and I think that's what it is. Is just they need to go back to what the core values of a customer that brings them in. Will they, as a huge corporation as they are? No, they're just going to keep. GameStop is Galactus.
Keeps eating up everything.
Just eating up another world, another planet.
Kind of RJ sent us that thing about Think Geek. Their online store, a ton of the stuff is like 50% off right now because they're going under. But they're like under GameStop's thumb kind of now too. Yeah.
And like I said, it all just comes down to just the one or two things. Like, just let them do their dang jobs. Like, what if there were always numbers expected of you. Even back then, it was 5% subs, 10% reserves. But if you were cool and did your stuff, you could hit it. I never ever was like, oh, this is tough. You would be like at like 25% and you're like, okay, because I'm just doing it. You know what I mean?
But then you hit that now and they're like, how did you do it? Did you do it the right way? Did you? It's like you wanted me to do it under any means necessary, and now you're gonna, ask me what I did.
So do you, Brian or Finch, know anyone that still works at GameStop? And generally, how are they dealing with the current state?
Drinking.
I mean, the only person I know would just be Kyle, but anytime I've walked in and seen him, he just seems very...
He looks like a broken human being.
It just looks like it's very robotic, is what it is. It's just like, I come in, I clock in, I go home. I come in, I clock... There's no, we used to walk in, and that too, like John Lodato.
Yeah, I mean, he was great. Angler and all them. Angler.
Yeah. Guys like that, you walked into and, like, you felt good going into there and that, too. Now you just walk in and you just see them and you're like, you look run down. Like, they look like the people that sit in a cubicle all day and it's their first time seeing the sun. They're, like... Just
imagine doing any job where you're the only person. Like, Turkey Hill's a little different because the foot traffic is more than any, whatever.
And that was the big difference is when I went from GameStop, where it was the store manager had to literally do everything because of hours, to going to Turkey Hill and getting umpteen hours and, getting, hundreds of hours. And it's like, wow, we can actually manage a business. We can do our jobs. Like, and we can do, it's very helpful, very beneficial.
I mean, that phrase, spend money to make money, is true. You can't cut every corner and be like, but why is everything bad? You can't do it.
You're going to have a manager like myself that's like, hey, you have 85 hours, make it work. Okay, well, I'm going to make it work because that's what you told me to. But I'm not. There's me and there's 600 other store managers, that don't feel the same.
Yeah. Same thing, Finch. Do you know anyone who still works there?
Yeah, I know quite a few of them, and it is like they hate it. They'll try and like cover it up and be like, yeah, I mean, conference and I got this and the consoles, but like,
what about the other 11?
Yeah,
dude, it like, again, it's, I hate to use it, but it's that bad relationship thing. It's like, got into a big fight. Oh, babe, I'll buy you dinner, and it's like, that doesn't, that's just putting a Band-Aid over it. That's all it is.
It's a sinking ship, and
until they stop being so ridiculously corporate.
Which won't happen.
Yeah, it just won't. Like, I'm obviously, it's, if they go away, I'm not like worried or whatever, as our store, but like, in a weird way, I almost want to see them try to do it just to like show the world, like, because this is a whole other thing, but it gives small stores like us almost like it's both a good thing because
it gives you kind of a bad rap in a sense because they put you in the same category.
Because they're like, oh, well, GameStop says they're dying because of digital. It's like, well, we aren't, because we're being nice to people. Like, and it's like, people who don't know anything about games are like, oh, all game stores are dying. And it's like, there are us and one other bigger place in Lancaster that are doing just fine because we're
Wasn't there like a recent article about like, about collectors and stuff like that too, that like it's actually like booming again.
Yeah, it's super booming, and it's like
coincidentally enough about Spencer and I.
Just we were actually on Fox 43 about that.
Yeah. I saw it.
But it's like just it sucks because it's good because they compare us to GS and it's like, oh, this place is better, but at the same time, if someone doesn't know, they're like, oh, I just know all game stores are dying because of digital, and it's like, GameStop, get your crap together. We'll still do better than you and beat you because we can, and we're on a small level. But it's like, make us all look better, It's like if Starbucks all of a sudden become like super crappy, like all the local coffee places would be like, great, now no one wants coffee because it's like terrible. You know what I mean?
They just assume all other bistros are terrible.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's at the same time I'm like, just and when I hear all these stories, or like when we have people come in, they buy the retro stuff on GameStop. They'll come in with, I remember this one lady had 2 old Crash games for PS1, and I've seen some scratch discs in my time. We have the disc buffer and everything, but they turned them. I turned them over, and I was like, they didn't sell this to you.
We used to see the ones that had like the top side damage,
on
the top.
But but literally, it's like $40 for Crash 1 on GS's website. They send you just the thing. Sometimes they don't even send it to you in a CD case. They send it to you in a damn sleeve.
In the sleeve,
right?
Yep.
And I pulled it out and I was like, they didn't charge you $40 for this. And it's like, I just got it today. And it's like, do your job right. Don't do it as good as us. But like, just come on. You know what I mean?
Due diligence to the customers that are.
It's so bad. Okay, so the future of GameStop. I have one pointed question for Brian, and then one less pointed question. Hypothetically, if GameStop came to you today and offered you the same salary you have, would you consider going back?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So, hypothetically again, what now? This is where I want to go because I figured you'd say this. Hypothetically again, what would it take for you to go back? Like honestly, hypothetically.
I mean, it would
like literally double your like if they came with you like it wouldn't happen because they don't pay anyone. But if they say
they'd be
double
like
your
six figure kind of thing,
double
like,
your current salary, would you literally or would you be like it's not worth the money for the headache?
Correct. It's not worth it for the mental beatdown, just the feeling inadequate. That's probably my biggest problem was the feeling like, especially because through GameStop, I wanted to be a district manager. I wanted to be at the time they had an area manager, which was like the in between. An area manager oversaw 3 stores, where the district managers oversaw 14 stores.
Okay.
So I wanted to be an area manager at least to get my foot in the door, and there was the empty promise, and then when I got let go, I was like, so I did all this kind of what I felt like for nothing kind of thing, but it then put me in a better position where I'm at now, is that I know my worth.
Yeah.
In that too, and that's what's helpful, because when I was with GameStop, I didn't really now on the outside looking in after it was all done, I didn't know my worth. So now that I know it, it's like, not only would you have to, which by the way, just for shits and giggles, I had reapplied to GameStop.
Okay.
This was probably about 2 years ago. I did it as seasonal. I reapplied or whatever. I am blacklisted.
Yo, you too?
What?
Me
too.
You're
blacklisted?
So I said what was funny is that I called,
they said you could...
I called. I was like, well, they're like, well, we've never heard of anything like that. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, I was specifically told that I could reapply in 6 months, but then I went to reapply and they were like, well, you came up as blacklisted or whatever. I was like, that's great. Kudos to you, maybe it's a club.
Even if
maybe we should join a club. It's the blacklisted club.
I'm gonna wear a shirt that said blacklisted.
I might not be officially blacklisted, but I'm on the hate list where they throw the darts at me anyway. So.
You know what? Just put yourself there.
Yeah,
put yourself on the list.
Hey, I like email them. Can you blacklist me? I want to be part of the club.
No, apply to be seasonal and then just never show up.
Oh, that would definitely do it.
But that's what it was. I was like, oh, let me just try just for seasonal. Maybe if they do bring me on, a little extra cash or whatever too. But I was like, I at first I was like, I did it just because I was like, I was kind of serious about it at first, and then when they told me that, I was like, well, good for them.
Yeah,
good for them.
Just blacklisted just forever.
Because, one thing. I was like, so does this mean like I have to wait longer? They're like, no, just like indefinitely. Cool, that's great.
Ever.
Yeah, I asked to see what it took to get like off the list because I thought about doing it like super part time at like a friend's store, just because whatever. And she was like, the amount of effort you have to go through to get like
just to do it.
I will say, if you're there one time a week for 5 hours and you're super part time, it's not bad because what does it matter? It doesn't matter at all.
Well, it doesn't matter either because then at least you get to check out a used game, which we forgot to touch on.
Yeah, that's true.
Forgot about that.
Used and used only.
Yep.
No.
That big exception.
They used to do new.
They used to do new. It used to be store managers only could do new. But it couldn't be new cartridge because obviously it saved on the cartridge.
Yeah.
But yep.
Wow. So last question: does my voice made it the whole way through here? Does GameStop have a future?
A good one or a bad one?
Does it have 5 years? 5 years from now, are all the stores there?
No. Not all the stores.
No. So
you guarantee a lot of the low bottom fruit will start getting cut off.
So you think 5 years from now we're looking at like a drastic reduction in the stores we have around at the very least?
Yeah, absolutely. Because right now you have, just in Lancaster alone, you have
it's like
six or
7
of them.
Yeah.
And then you go into York, you add 4 more. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that it's just and I felt bad because how do you with 4491, which was the one in the center of the mall, was always on the low hanging fruit. Nothing Loggins did bad. Nothing anybody who went there did bad. It was just like, that was the store they sent you. They were like, listen, you're going to die. We're just going to send you to that store. And that store is forever cursed to be like in the lowest percentile in the company.
Yeah.
And there's no, but
you can't do anything about it.
But it's the lowest percentile in the company until November 1st. Once November 1st comes, they're like, oh, wait, that's why we keep it, because it's a cash cow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For the holidays.
Because people forget to walk down Sears because it's right there in the center
Because
court.
it's just another place that they can house a bunch of stuff and sell a bunch more stuff, then yes, now it's a cash cow.
I'm honestly curious for that tiny little store how much the rent is per month. Like, I try to think about it. Do you know? You made a face.
No,
I try to think about it.
No, but I know it took the longest time. The reason why I still had the EB Games in that too, because like the EB Games logo still had to be up there for like years, even after GameStop bought it, because it was contracted through the mall.
Wow.
But
I honestly, so it has to be literally maybe 1,200 to 1,500 square feet in there, including the back.
But they have it easy because the mall has a set amount of clothing stores that they're allotted, that they allot for themselves. They have X amount of electronic stores and stuff like that too, and everything too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if GameStop were to remove one out of there, they would have to replace it with something else. Well, what else are they going to replace it with? So why not just keep both of them in the mall?
Yeah.
So that's why they've always had because originally what should have happened is that the one that was EB Games should have closed. They should have just kept the one in the Sears wing open and that too. But again, hey, if you're going to make money hand over fist,
yeah,
having two stores open that are and the thing is too is at the mall, the funny thing is too is that they don't give you access to, but there's so many different places to like store stuff. So instead of us all having it in the back room and you couldn't even move, heaven forbid you were over 200 pounds, like you could not move in that back room.
Yeah,
they'd be like, "Can I get that system?" You're like, "Nope, can't fit."
Wow.
But I think as far as for them for a future in that too, they're going to start getting rid of a lot of the low hanging fruit, a lot of those ones that aren't making them.
Which is funny because that's what I would do if I was CEO. That's the first thing I would do. Well, that and treating people right. But like there are too many stores. Yeah. But I feel like instead of it being like bought out and they're like, okay, this is rationally the thing to do, it will be because they have to.
Yeah.
Which is a completely different. I know it sounds weird, but like sometimes like if a company buys a store and they close, like Best Buy did that. They downgraded a bunch of stores and they closed some, but now they're doing better than ever. Yep. Just because they're focused. They realized
they're focused on 10 stores versus 10,000 stores now. It's because
also they trim some of the fat, because I remember going into Best Buy and being able to buy guitars.
Yeah, and that's like unnecessary.
Yeah,
stuff that you walk in, you're like, why do you have it? And they're like, because
we do.
Yeah.
Because we do. Yeah.
But we got to pay for this 80,000 square feet of space or whatever. And it's like, boy, that's expensive. You know what I mean? Like I'm wondering whatever is going to move in that Best Buy near Costco, because it is so huge. Like Costco's already there.
Yep.
Walmart has enough around there. Yeah. There's already a Home Depot, so it's not going to be a Lowe's. So I'm like, what? I'm like, that whoever owns that building's like, yikes. Unless they can like subcontract it or something like that. But it's like, what place is going to be like 100,000 square feet? Great, let's do it. Let's get it going. Like even a place like a Big Lots is like much smaller. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
and it's not like
they can't even put a Sky Zone. There's already a Sky Zone there.
Yeah.
So it's not...
But like all the big places I can think of, I'm like, they're already in Lancaster. You know what I mean?
They're already there.
Yeah.
But like big places like that are good for like welding shops, but you can't put like a shop or something in there because
not in that prime real estate. Yeah. And that's so I think about that sometimes. Like, what the heck is going to move there? Maybe the biggest mattress firm in the history of mankind, because as we all know, the mattress firm is a money laundering scheme anyway. Yeah. So that's tips hat. That is not a thing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. It's not a thing. Don't YouTube it.
Yeah.
Don't YouTube it. YouTube it, okay? So anyway,
disclaimer.
Thank you, Brian, for being with us. This was an awesome conversation. It was great, and we finally put a voice to the name we've mentioned before. Legend. Thank you, Finch, for again being on 3 times in a row. Let's go, baby. This has been quite exhilarating and long enough, so we'll let you get going. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you both for being on here.
Yes, sir.